106 miles to Chicago. We got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes. It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses. Hit it.
Why would you keep a Ford dually rear end? What do you ever use a Ford dually rear end for? Well, here we are. All these years I've been holding on to this dually rear end, and apparently I need it. It's about 10 below, and I want to bring this thing into the shop, so we gotta start it. Cold start. It's definitely not a snowbank in here. Oh, it's definitely a snowbank in here. Oh. If only I hadn't broken all the windows trying to get the doors open. Oh, yeah. All right. Well, now my hands are cold. Excellent. I am a delicate flower. All right. Oh, it's an old can out of the 46 International. I found another old can of liquid fire. The good stuff. Let's see what she does. Oh, it's going to want lots. Lots. Oh, yeah. Might have to do that more than once. We'll see. It's all cold and wintry out here. Damn this Alberta, Canada weather. Miserable. What do you do? Wine. Nothing. Let's try that again. All right, round two. That's unusual. There it goes. I wonder what that was all about. It's only about 10 below. It shouldn't be that hard to start. But I guess it has no plugs or glow plugs at all. So you just gotta take it with a grain of salt, I guess. Oh yeah, it'll be warmed up in I don't know, 20 minutes or something. So most people build a project and halfway through they just hate it because, you know, it's given them so much grief and they spent so much money on it. Well, that is not the case. I love this thing. It is such a piece of crap. It's getting the whole deal. Like this thing, I've got a whole set. I've got a spare dually diff right here. That's going on. Yeah, you bet. And I got a whole set of tires over there already mounted on dually rims that match the front ones. Oh yeah. You can thank Peg for that one. Old Peg over at Zip Ties. He's the one that made this possible. He gave me a bunch of weather checked, cracked, wore out old military tires. But guess what? They're just like the ones I have. So yeah, it's time to do the body work to this thing, hide the holes, maybe add more bullet holes, we'll see. I got to do the roof racks and all the lights and wire up the alternator to charge and then wire up the lights to function and make the interior safer. Just kidding, I'm not going to waste my time doing that. But I am going to make a shifter that works properly. I've gotten lots of suggestions on YouTube. I appreciate it. And I'm going to build a linkage style like they would do on a race car or on a front wheel drive. But yeah, this one I actually considered buying the adapters to put the dually wheels on, but I think it's actually cheaper to just wheel this rear end underneath it and put U-bolts. I think U-bolts are cheaper than the adapter kit by a large margin. Now, I don't know what the gear ratio is. I'm not really particularly concerned. I suspect this is 410 and this thing's already 410s. So I'm not worried about that. One thing I am concerned with is the compatibility for width. I haven't measured any of that yet, but I'm sure it will fit. The bolt pattern will be the same. This is off a 78 Ford 1-ton. I don't have pictures of that one to show you guys. It was pretty sweet though. It was a 97 Cummins frame with a P-pump 12 valve and had a 78 Ford crew cab body with a deck. I gave up on it. It wasn't what I was going for, and that's when I decided to build Fords with Cummins engines in them, not Cummins with Ford bodies on them. Lesson learned. But either way, I got a whole bunch of stuff to do to this thing. We got to make it a Wasteland ride, and getting it running and driving was only the first step. But now that it runs and drives good, I can do all the extra stuff to make it kick ass. So I got the diff removed on the 3/4 ton diff removed, and I go to slide in the 1-ton diff, and I run into a slight problem. It's narrower by about 2 inches, and I knew it was, but I never factored in how narrow it was would affect the U-bolts. So the U-bolts don't clear the drum. Well, the brakes don't work, and on this diff, the brakes didn't work either. So there's no fluid even in the lines when I cut the lines off. So why do you even need the brakes? So now there's no U-bolt issue. See, without the brake assembly on, the U-bolts fit everywhere. Modern problems require modern solutions. And we learned something. We learned that a 79 Ford rear end is about 2 inches narrower than a 90s Ford rear end. Is it going to matter? No. It just means it does better burnouts now, because now it only has front brakes. So after much work, the diff is mounted, but I ran into a major problem. These have to come off, which is whatever. This is nothing. Those are for the airbag mounts. I just got to take those off. But because this old diff is narrower than a new diff, my dually wheels still don't fit. I've got the same problem as if I just tried to bolt dually wheels onto a single wheel. I run into the springs with the wheels. And it's bad. Like really bad. I never measured how much narrower this diff was before I put it in because I'm stupid. But, so it looks cool because the dualies are sitting there, but they're not bolted on. I've got 1-inch spacers behind this rim, and it's still rubbing the spring. Like it's just useless. It rubs the spring. So I would have to get at least 1.5-inch spacers, in which case I probably could have just used the 3/4 ton diff. We'll see what I end up doing here. I have a 1-ton dually diff from a 91. It's just under the truck, and it's 30, or well, it's not 30 below, it's 20 below. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit. Yeah, it's probably like 0 Fahrenheit. Anyway, it's cold. It's not the kind of weather to be pulling diffs out from under trucks outside, and this thing can't be moved in its current form. I could bolt single wheels on it to roll it out and put it in 4x4 and drive it as a front wheel drive. But I can't bring that other truck in. It's a nightmare of flat tires, and so now I have to figure out what to do with this thing. I'm going to price out some wheel spacers, and then I guess from there it's just swapping the other diff in if I can't get wheel spacers, because these are supposed to be hub centered, and dualies, I don't know if you can space dually wheels the same. I'm not sure. I've never looked into this. So I had a surprisingly good night. I ordered wheel spacers. They're on the way. They're like $100, but it is what it is. And yeah, I mounted the shocks to this other diff, and this thing has adjustable shock mounts. That is the greatest thing ever invented. So if I lift this truck even higher, all I got to do is twist this up and loosen the U-bolt and twist it upwards, and then you don't even have to buy longer distance shocks. That's terrific. Everything should be like that, adjustable. And win of the day, to answer the question that no one asked, the U-joint and the whole yoke from a 1978 Ford 1-ton is the same as a 1991 3/4 ton. So the diffs didn't change a whole bunch. I didn't even have to change the U-joint. I just Oh, I didn't even grease it. I just put it back together. It's good. It's fine. Yeah, this is great. So mechanically, this thing's all back together and ready to be driven. I mean, it still has no brake assemblies. I mean, you don't need brake assemblies. Brake assemblies are overrated. But, yeah, it's good to go. I just got to check to make sure there's oil in this diff. And put the wheel spacers on, and the duals should fit. Right now, I've got the single wheels on it just for the ease of maintenance and if I have to roll it out of the shop. Look at those crappy U-bolts. Oh, they're square ones, and I needed rounds, but I mean, I had them laying around. So guess what? They identify as the right U-bolts. Oh, this working full-time is really putting a cramp in my style. How am I supposed to build garbage working as much? So I finally fixed my shifter problem. Now it goes to a linkage in the front. Basically professional. I definitely just didn't use a bunch of garbage I had laying around, but yeah, we have a shifter system. Yep. Problem solved. Basically professional. Now I can also switch between 2-wheel drive and 4-wheel drive without having to get out of the car every time. Yep. Oh, yeah. What dreams are made of. Now I just have to fix everything that's wrong with this thing. So here we are. It's that fateful day I've been worried about for years and years and years, where I was going to peel the blower off of Hines Creek and put it on something else. The blower has caused more harm than good to this thing. Not that it doesn't run good. It's just that there's breather problems, and as you can see from the snowbank on the engine, my not so good hood job made it so that water builds up behind the intake and fills the breather, and then every time I go to start this thing, I gotta drain like 4 liters of water out of the oil pan, which is a real downer. But I did make this thing to be quick change, so it should pop off of here in like 5 minutes. And then the only thing left to do after that will be to unbolt the drive sprocket. Yeah, once the drive sprocket's off, then this thing can sit till spring. Like, it ain't going anywhere. It's got the wrong wheels on the back, and it's got water in the oil pan, and it's lots of problems. It ain't going anywhere for a bit here. So that's the plan. Oh, I forgot how heavy this thing was. Man, it's heavy. Like, I blew my back out trying to lift that thing out of the truck. Now I remember why I made so many support brackets for it. Because it's insanely heavy. So the electric fan is necessary for clearance for the chain drive. Everything unbolts. Here's your tensioner. This is the factory alternator tensioner. So I just take the one off this and then put it on Hines Creek. And I took the air filter housing and put it on Hines Creek. So Hines Creek will be back to factory. It'll be fine. Nobody needs to know that it had a blower on it. The only thing I modified permanently is I drilled a hole in the valve cover on Hines Creek for a breather. That I can just put a bolt in, move on. Nothing's permanently modified on that thing, so everything can go back to factory. I'll have to put the mechanical fan back on that one, but it won't work on this one anyway. So yeah, that was easy. Other than having to lift the damn thing, that was insanely easy. So this thing's mounted, and it could not have been easier. Everything just transfers over, so I just bolted everything on. It was really, really easy. I got to redo a bunch of sheet metal work now, because now the blower doesn't match the air catch that was the bug catcher that was there before. So I got to do a little bit of sheet metal, but that's okay. I think it was destined that it was always going to end up with a zoomies and a blower at the same time. It's too bad inside the shop I can't get a real good... Yeah. And the bucket of the skid steer really hides how cool that looks. Let's see if I can get it from here. Yeah. So I am building this station wagon, and I'm patching all the damage in the doors and fixing other things. But every once in a while, when you're building a project, you start getting ideas, like changing the theme of a project. As you can see, I already fixed the hood. I added some sweet bars. It's red, if you'll notice. It's because I changed the theme. I'm not going to build a rat rod anymore. I'm going more for a new genre of vehicles that may not exist yet. It might exist. I have not looked into this pretty thoroughly. But I want to build like twisted metal. So I started adding other things that it's not finished yet, but I started adding other things to make this thing more of a twisted metal build. And part of the paint work is I'm doing this to the whole car. So I'm going to frame some things, I'm going to build some steel. It's going to be a nasty bastard. But yeah, I don't know if it doesn't come across that great on the camera, but I think this thing red and black with the huge bumper, with the blower and the zoomies and all the other stuff. And I'm going to build a 50 cal to go right here. And probably some lights on the roof and some other things. It's going to be I want to build something different. The next time you guys see this thing, the next time it comes out, it's going to be something else.
Don't care. Guys do that. No one does that.
So I'm trying to drive around and test this thing and make a presentable video of how this thing runs and drives, and it drives pretty good. But the field it's frozen and thawed so many times. It's like driving through a trail with a bunch of logs that fell down. Like, it's brutally rough. And there's nothing I can do to keep a camera mount from flopping off the side of the car, and like they're just moving around too much. I can't videotape better. It's just so rough. Even in the interior, it's rough. We have the worst kind of snow. It won't even travel in two-wheel drive. It was definitely better as a single wheel in the snow, but unbelievably bad. Yeah, it kind of sucks because I'd like to just go ripping through the field. I'm controlling the boost on this thing. You can swap the blower on and off with these valves. So if you open these valves, the blower does nothing. Well, it just blows all the air out right here. And that's so that I can take, if the chain breaks, I can just pull the chain off and run it with the valves open, and then you don't need a blower at all. And, you know, eventually the chain will fly off. It hasn't ever done it to me, but I mean, let's face it, it's a hillbilly operation, so you gotta have to have backups. One of my zoomies fell off. That's how rough the field is. It's bouncing so hard in the field that the zoomies fell off. Clearly, I only tacked this one and never welded it all the way. I know who to blame for that. That one-legged bastard. I'll try and do better here, but boy, is it tough. One thing I will say, this thing drives flawlessly. Everything works, fan works, everything's solid. Alternator charges. I am gonna have to figure out something with the crankcase breather. So that's the crankcase breather hose. And originally it would have went back into the intake, but because it's got the blower on it, you would just be pressurizing the crankcase, so you can't do that. So it should theoretically be sucking. Like, it should go into the top of the blower, and the blower should pull any crankcase vacuum away, because even with the boost reduced, with these valves open, it's still running in the positives. I can see it on the gauge. It's running at about 2 pounds. And if I close the valves, well, I can't close them all the way. That's the best way of putting it. If I close them all the way, this blower puts out way more than this engine can handle. So I limit it to about 12 pounds. And that's with one valve shut completely and one valve partially open. Right now it's running at like 2 pounds. If I close this just a little bit. One thing that's a downer though, is the blower makes a lot of noise. A lot of noise. So if I shut the valve off, or even most of the way off, it's insanely loud. It's interesting. Sweet.
Now you've done it.
Uh-oh. Yeah, the blower adds horsepower, but it also tests the limits of the radiator, and she's a little warm. Might want to give her a few minutes to cool down. Oh, the coolant does not look good. But damn, does that not make a good picture, doesn't it? One thing I will say is that blower, it adds horsepower, but it puts a lot of strain on the cooling system. Because this thing, you could whip donuts at this thing for half an hour before, and it didn't mind. But even running at like 5 pounds of boost, it still makes more heat. Just the way it is. I will say this though, it runs and drives good. It still doesn't go into reverse at all. The transmission is still pretty shot, but it works damn good, and I'm not disappointed in how it turned out at all. It's still, it's never done. There's still always room for improvement, or, you know, making it not such a piece of crap. But, you know, the station wagon deserved a second life, and now it's got it. And I'm sure we're going to use it more in the future. Like I said, it's 4x4. All the lights work, the charging system works, so now it can actually be taken on adventures. I just got to figure out how to, I'm gonna have to put a bigger fan on it. The fan is not big enough. The little, you know, Amazon special fan I put on it is not gonna cut it for keeping this thing cool. Love it. So I've made some other additions to this thing I should probably mention. I put some nice cup holders that'll almost exclusively be used for Cosby sauce, obviously. And then, yeah, the chain link steering wheel I think was a nice touch. It still has gaping holes behind the seat. It's a little rotten. It's another reason I put the cup holders in. You put your keys and your phone in the cup holders, because you put them in your pockets, it's a bit of a problem. Yep. I could fix it. I mean, I probably won't, but I could fix it. It's been about 5 minutes. 10 minutes maybe. Let's find out if she's cooled down. Oh, she's probably not happy. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. mint. 7.3 IDIs are great.